You know what you're listening to?
Is that a trick question?
It's the I Still Love This Game podcast with your host, Matthew Damian.
He's an idiot. Don't listen to this. He's an idiot.
Good morning and welcome to episode 110 of the I Still Love This Game podcast. Now, I know that I said that I would take a break. I know, trust me, I was looking forward to it too. But there's, for some reason, the NBA becomes a lot more interesting when there's no games on, in terms of all the drama off the court. And to be honest with you, over the last 48 hours, and I don't know why, I've been receiving a lot of really, really good emails and direct messages. Now, my theory is because the podcast went down over the last week, and then all the episodes that I was uploading, they all, including the ones that were scheduled for release in, say, 2 to 3 weeks' time, they all were released at one time. There was like a massive dump of podcasts out there. And then, of course, everybody's listening to all these shows, and I'm getting messages from people. I'm like, how do you know about this topic? Or how did you know about that? And then, of course, I had to go and take some of them down. And it was a mess. It was an absolute mess. So that might be the cause of it. I don't know. But I'm happy with them, because here I am. I'm doing a mailbag show, which I know I always say I've got to get around to doing, and here we are. And one of the questions that I received that made me laugh hysterically, actually, and it was about Adam Silver and the NFL. And I'm laughing about it now, because please, God, make this happen. Please make this happen. I find it funny. If you guys didn't hear, apparently there was a rumor circulating that the NFL tried to get Adam Silver because he's doing such a great job with the NBA. Keep in mind, this is the same NBA that featured two of the past two MVP award winners, James Harden and Russell Westbrook, in a thrilling come-from-behind victory for the Thunder on the road. And this is not just... Let's just put to a side that they are former MVP award winners, but they actually were in the middle of historic streaks. Russell Westbrook with the triple-doubles, James Harden with the 30-point games. That's the same league that lost in the ratings to a brand new league on their debut week for football. Adam Silver, commissioner genius, allowed that to happen. Now, the rumor was going out there, as I said, that the NFL owners, they were sick of bad publicity and bad press. So they were looking at Adam Silver, who seems to be a media darling. Let's just put it that way. Because anything he says is loved by all except for the paying customer. Because when you look at the shape of the NBA, let's just look at this. The NBA is a joke. There's no other way to put it. The game of basketball is what's keeping the NBA alive, not the other way around. And whereas in the 80s and the 90s, I mean, you can talk about college basketball all you want, but the NBA at least was on par in terms of popularity domestically with college basketball. Internationally, it blew it right out of the water. I mean, how many people around the world know about Christian Laettner, who was arguably the biggest NCAA college basketball player, men's at least? How many people around the world know who he is? How many people know who Michael Jordan is? So, of course, from a global standpoint, the NBA killed it. But the point I was making is, at least it was on par. Whereas now, college basketball is so much more popular. And all you got to do is look at a guy like Zion Williamson. And Zion is getting all the publicity in the world. He's getting all the exposure. People are talking about him. What happens when he goes to the NBA? Even if he's as big as what LeBron was and as good as what LeBron was in his first season, do you think we're going to be talking about him as much as we're talking about him right now with Duke? I don't think so. So the point is, the NBA is not a very popular league despite the popularity of the game itself. And you've got to ask why. How did this happen? And there's quite a few things, and I've talked about these things all the time, but they've gotten worse under Silver. And the biggest problem is small market teams feel they don't have a chance for a variety of reasons. One, the biggest one is they feel they're going to get hosed by the refs in critical situations. And all you have to do is look at, with the exception of the Cavs, but you could argue that they weren't even a small market team, because look at the reaction when they won the title. 1.5 million people, 1 million people, whatever it was, went to their championship parade So is that really a small market? I would venture to say no, it wasn't. Beyond that, you've got to go all the way back to, God, I don't know. I'm not going to call San Antonio a small market either. From a professional sports landscape, who else? What other teams do they have? They don't have a football team. They don't have a baseball team. So who else have they got? That's a basketball town right there, and it's got quite a large demographic. They are probably one of the more profitable franchises because they actually sell out games. So I'm not going to include San Antonio on that list. I mean, Miami, maybe, but Miami's an international city. It's got a very popular tourist destination, both domestically in the United States as well as internationally. I mean, think about the teams that have dominated, who have won, not just dominated. And you got to think about Golden State. That's got a large population. That's a large market. The Lakers, obviously, I'm talking about the last 25 years, by the way. The Lakers, the Celtics, the Bulls, all major markets. Teams like Miami, San Antonio, major markets. The smallest is probably Cleveland. And even then, that's not really a small market when you consider the surrounding areas. So the point that I'm making is if you're from a team with a small market, you probably don't feel like you have a chance because of the officiating. And it's hard to argue with that. The NBA has a real bad perception, and it hasn't cleaned it up. It's never cleaned it up. In fact, it's gotten worse, to the point that they're actually admitting that they get it wrong, but they don't fix it, which is unbelievable in of itself. I mean, can you imagine the lack of self-respect you would think of if a guy or a girl was dating a guy or a girl, and that person kept cheating on it, they kept apologizing, but they kept doing it. But they still stuck with them. And I think a lot of NBA fans, at some point, it's just a matter of time before they turn off from that. Now, the NBA does a good job at recycling, not recycling, but generating new casual fans. But the fact remains they can't keep the older ones because they see how fraudulent, borderline fraudulent, the league is. And it doesn't take an Einstein to realize that this has been done very sneakily, very underhanded. This is why I say the WWE, laugh at it all you will, may actually be a more legitimate form of entertainment than the NBA, because the WWE will tell you that that is predetermined. Whereas the NBA, they will not tell you it's predetermined. And I'm not sure if I would go as far as to say it's predetermined. However, I will say that the league does have, even if there is no grand conspiracy or they're not trying to manipulate outcomes of games or whatever, they definitely have a perception issue which they have not been able to fix. And it has gotten worse under Adam Silver. Now, the other things that Adam Silver has struggled with is the keeping control of the players. And it's gotten to the point now that players are running the league into the ground. It's hard to, because look, obviously I'd be the biggest hypocrite of the world if I cared about this, because I run a podcast giving my opinion. I don't care if players have their own opinions on things. Of course they're entitled to. But the problem that I have is when people keep push back, like myself or anybody else, on things that players will say that are completely polarizing, and say, hold on a second, that's not true. But if you push back, or if you boo, like when they boo Kawhi Leonard, all of a sudden you're ignorant, or you're a hater, or all these other things. This us versus them mentality, war between the players towards the owners and also towards the fans, has pushed the fans away from the game. How many players have done this before? They didn't do this in the 80s and 90s when it was the most popular, when the league was at its peak. But you see this now. And yeah, okay, you might get 20,000 likes on Instagram, and you might, or whatever it is, or you might get, people agreeing with you, journalists or whatever. But guess what? They're not the people paying you to come and watch you. The reason you are in these positions of mass wealth and mass reach is because of the fans. And when they start to walk away, that money will dry up. If you worked at McDonald's and you started, talking to people coming in to buy hamburgers, the way that the players talk to the fans, or treat the fans with such lack of respect, how quickly do you think you would last at that job? You wouldn't last very long, because management would realize that, hey, if you were disrespectful to that customer, whether you're in the right or not. But if you were disrespectful to them, they will walk away, and that company will lose business. So you'll be shown the door faster than your head can spin. And the same thing has happened in the NBA. Now, what the NBA has been very good at doing is manipulating itself. Manipulating how strong it is. Excuse me. Just let's look at some facts, all right? You go to games with contenders or even championship teams. I remember I've told this story many times. When the Cavs had won the title, as I said, 1.5 million people came out to celebrate, all that stuff, right? It looked amazing. I was shocked when I came back the next season, and tickets were so cheap and so readily available. And I'm not talking about having to go to StubHub and buy tickets, secondhand tickets. I mean just from the Cavs website. And these were up against playoff teams. These weren't even if they weren't up against playoff teams. You would think that people would have been so happy and so willing to, and these tickets were dirt cheap. It's not like I paid $100 for the nosebleed seats. The fact is, fans do not want to actually go to these games anymore because they feel like it's not even, the players don't even play hard. And I can't say I disagree with them because it's hard to. Why should you as a fan care more than what a professional does about their craft? It's difficult to as I said, if you've got any kind of self-respect, how can you possibly, look the other way? How many times are you meant to look the other way and forgive the league? Especially that if you throw any criticism at the players, you're a hater. Or even a lot worse. So that's the second one. The third one is the players just sitting out. So that's even more ridiculous. You got these nationally televised games, you build up all this hype and the storylines, and then players just sit out. Marquee players from Steph Curry to LaMarcus Aldridge to LeBron James to whoever they feel like who has load management issues. That should be a t-shirt, by the way. They just sit out. And if you bought a ticket, think about this, if you are a tourist from domestic in the United States, domestically in the US, or internationally, your favorite player may only come to town if you're lucky, once a year or twice a year. So if you have, say, relatives in Los Angeles or whatever, and you're a big Kyrie Irving fan, you may want to see that game. So you buy airfares. If you've got a family, then double or quadruple the costs associated with that. You have to buy tickets to the game. And then, load management. Sorry, but not sorry. Enjoy the rest of the game. Enjoy watching Terry Rozier play instead. Once again, if you have any respect for yourself as an individual, how many times are you meant to cop that on the chin before walking away from the game? And I'm not sure if I expanded on this a second ago, but the fact that the players now dictate when they're within their contract. Of course, as a free agent, you can go wherever you want. Nobody is ever saying that. But if you sign a contract for a team, and then all of a sudden you just say, no, I don't want to play for this team anymore. Like, look at this whole Anthony Davis situation. We saw it with Kawhi Leonard last season. Although Kawhi Leonard, I don't know the full story behind that because he never gave us his story. So, I'm a man of my word. I will give the benefit of the doubt. But with Anthony Davis, there is no benefit of the doubt here. He is under contract. He is not injured. And yet he's, you see what happened, once again, a nationally televised game up against, I believe it was Oklahoma. And, he was, I don't even know, what was it, a shoulder bruise? Is that what and he left the game, he left the arena before the game was over? And that led to Dell Demps, the general manager, being fired? Like, that's his fault? That's unbelievable. The lack of accountability with the NBA is astonishing. So when you add all this up, why on God's green earth would the NFL, who is rolling hand over fist in money, they can do no wrong, even though that they can attempt to do wrong. Trust me, they've tried to. But in terms of popularity of their sport in the United States, they can do no wrong. And the only thing they can really screw up is with Colin Kaepernick, and we'll get to that in a minute, and the whole flag thing. But even then, the league, it was a bit of a dent. But it's still, look at the fans that came back this year, this past season. So it really didn't hurt them in the long run. People were only turned away from the game for so long because of it. So why would anybody be interested in Adam Silver to run their league as opposed to Roger Goodell? Now, Roger Goodell, he's a bit of an idiot. I 100% agree with that. But he's very wise as to understanding. He's much more in tune with the fans than what Adam Silver is. Adam Silver is much more in tune with the media than Roger Goodell. And if for nothing else, with everything we've seen with Trump or Brexit or anything else, we have seen there is a massive disconnect between what the media prioritizes and what the regular person prioritizes. If the media was on the same page as the regular person, we would not have seen 91 or 93% projections of Hillary Clinton winning and then losing in an electoral college landslide the way she did. You may not like that, but that's just what I'm telling. These are just the facts. So there is a huge disconnect between the media and the regular people in society. Roger Goodell connects with the regular people in society. Adam Silver connects with the media. Now, which one's going to pay your bills? If you're an NBA owner, if you're trying to sell out arenas, if you're trying to get ratings, you're trying to sell merchandise, it is not the media. It is the regular person that comes and who sits in the seat and buys a jersey, or buys food, or buys a beer, or is a season ticket holder. They are the people that pay your bills. Adam Silver is clueless when it comes to this. Absolutely clueless. So that's why I laughed so hard when I heard about this. Because to me, all it is a desperate attempt by the NBA. It's kind of like the LeBron MJ thing. LeBron will throw stones at MJ because MJ is that much above him in terms of his popularity and his accolades as a player. So LeBron realizes he can't reach him. The best way to get, the only way he can sort of overcome this is by constantly throwing stones and hoping MJ will come down to his level. So I think the media is trying to elevate the NBA by saying, oh, look how popular it is or whatever. That's not. The NBA is not popular at all. And I'm going to lead this into the All-Star Weekend. You look at all the storylines, every single storyline leading to it. I didn't watch it. I can't tell you the last time I have watched All-Star Weekend. And that includes the game, obviously. I don't know. It's probably been about 10 years. It's been that long. The last time I can remember a truly competitive game was maybe when the Pistons had four starters and they played with Paul Pierce at the same time. And you're like, whoa, let's see how the West tries to beat this Pistons team. That I thought was really cool. I have not seen any competition closely resembling that since then. So I don't bother watching it. But isn't that a sad state of the NBA? Think about this. Think about all the storylines, from Anthony Davis to Paul George, Russell Westbrook, to LeBron James, is he healthy, to Steph Curry, going up, Giannis, of course. All these players, you've got all these storylines, Kyrie Irving and LeBron James on the same team again. All this stuff. And yet I won't watch it. Why won't I watch it? The storylines are good. Why won't I watch it, though? The fact that there is no substance behind it, there's no payoff. What was the final score? I don't know. I remember hearing about it. It was like 180 to 175 or something like that. I want to see a ratio of how many threes were taken as opposed to twos. Take away threes and dunks. What was maybe foul shots? Let's compare how many mid-range jumpers were taken. Because to me, a mid-range jumper shows competitive basketball. Because it shows you're not willing to give up a three, you're not willing to give up a two close to the basket, so a dunk or layup or whatever. So you're forcing your opposition to shoot a mid-range jumper instead. That shows me competition on the defensive side of the court. And if none of those were taken, then what a joke. What an absolute waste. But the thing is, and I have seen some of the highlights, and you see LeBron running around dunking and all that stuff, and we'll get to that in a minute. But the players seemed a little bit more energetic for that than most of the regular season games. So as bad as that game looked, from a scoreline standpoint, there was probably more intensity or more enjoyment from the players than a regular season game. Which is once again why people don't actually bother watching it. They will prefer to watch a semi-professional startup league in its debut week than a marquee matchup in prime time on national TV with the NBA. That's absurd. That is absolutely absurd when you think about it, but it happened. So, beyond the All-Star game, what is left? I talked about this in the Vince Carter tribute in the 2000 Slam Dunk competition. That used to be a marquee event because you had the stars. You understand, like sports, you need characters. You need to build up. It's like a TV show. What good is it if you turned on Breaking Bad, in season 4 and you didn't know the backstory of Walter White or Hank or Skylar or whoever? What good would that be? You wouldn't know the backstory. Why would you care? So yeah, while some of these dunks looked like they were good, I still can't tell you who won it. I know it was a guy from Oklahoma who jumped over Shaq. So that's cool and everything, but I can't even tell you who won it. Like, that to me that's sad more than anything, because it's doing the game a disservice. You may as well just go to some YMCA and pick up guys from the rec league to go in there and do dunks now, or the Flight Brothers or whoever, to go in there and start doing between the legs twice or something like that. Because, what are they calling up from the D League? Like, who are these people? We don't even know. Oh, excuse me. I think Dennis Smith Jr. Not Dennis Scott Jr. Dennis Smith Jr. who was just traded from Dallas to New York. I think he was in it. But from what I heard, he took 1 million dunks to get his out. So that would just take the air out of the building. Now, if you're saying to me, well, why should the stars compete? Well, I don't know. Why should the stars compete? Maybe because it's a showcase. But the other part of it too is, why don't we ever get this question about the three-point shooter? Steph Curry had no problems competing again. How many years in a row has Steph Curry competed in a three-point shootout? Is it because he cares about it? So why is he able to care about it, but dunkers don't? Just think about that for a second. What other event was there? Oh, there was the skills challenge thing, and this is when I turned it off. Because I went out to get food, and I came back, and I turned it on to watch it, and it almost, like, the introduction to it, to the entire event, right, for All-Star Weekend, was when they were selecting. It was almost like a deal or no deal situation. Like, at some point, this is just, it's so comic, it's so corny and cheesy with no real substance behind it. And all it comes down to is who can make the three-point shot the quickest. And if that's not a damning indictment of the NBA right now, it doesn't matter if you can rebound, if you can dribble, if you can do anything like that. If you can make a three, you're in. That's what the perception is amongst NBA fans. That's pathetic. Of course, it was exciting because Tatum hit it from beyond half court, so we could get the victory. But still, I mean, it's just lame. You're losing the whole thing, and then you just jack up a prayer, and because you made the three quicker, you win it. I mean, I don't know. It's lame. You know what would be great? Put Patrick Beverley on defense. So you got to dribble up against him. Do something like that. That would be interesting. Or for the three-point contest. And I got some people who messaged me during it and prior to it, and also prior to this whole weekend. And they were saying, oh, look, this is how much better three-point shooters are now, because look at the scores, as opposed to the 90s or the early 2000s when they were doing the contest. No, you idiots, listen. The scores are inflated. Just like anything else now, it's inflated because they want to artificially inject excitement into these events, rather than just letting it happen organically. So what you've got now is you've got the Moneyball rack, which I'm sure, as I said, I didn't watch the event this year, I'm sure it was still in play. Whereas prior to the inception of that, which I think was 4 or 5 years ago, you just had the 5 regular orange basketballs and you had a money ball at the end of each rack. And the money ball was worth 2. Now you have a money ball rack where you can pick where you want it to be, and every ball on that rack is worth 2 points. So obviously the potential for scores is that much greater now than back then, because it's out of a potential score as opposed to it being out of a potential, I think it could have been 30, I think it was a potential score. Now the potential is like 36, 38. I don't know. I don't have the maths in front of me, so I wouldn't be able to tell you. But that's why you see much higher scores. That's why you see guys like Steph Curry or whoever getting close to getting 30. That doesn't mean that he's a better shooter in this competition now. It just means that there's Moneyball racks. If they had the Moneyball rack earlier on, then you would have seen guys like Steve Kerr or Tim Legler in 96 or Craig Hodges or Larry Bird in their heyday put up massive. Mark Price is another one too. Put up massive numbers. So all in all, people like the perception is it was a good All-Star weekend and it's a good reflection of the league. I would say that's absolute nonsense because it should be so much better. It should be but to be honest with you, I think it's an accurate representation of the league. However, it's still not a good one. It shows that the players just don't care. They just and you can't force somebody to care unless they care. You can't do it. You can't force like a girl or a guy to love you if they don't love you. You can offer them everything in the world and they can pretend to care. They can give you, token appreciation or time, but they won't love you. I honestly think there's a lot of players in the NBA that just do not care. And I hate to say it, but Jordan called this out years and years ago when he did that interview with Oprah along with Charles Barkley, and he said that players don't have to earn it. Whereas in his day, they were taken care of, but they had to earn their way to shoe deals. They had to become the best, and by becoming the best, they had to pay their dues and learn to appreciate it. And players now, it's hard to watch. I would have no problems if they still competed and acted like they gave, you know what? I'm trying to clean up the show, by the way. Trying to clean up the show, as you can tell. But and once again, if you've got any type of respect as an individual, you will not sit there and be openly disrespected or insulted, have your intelligence insulted by the league and by the players. The players don't care, and it shows. And the league doesn't care because they still haven't fixed the bloody officiating problems. So the league, not only does it suffer from an image standpoint with the players not caring, but it also suffers from a massive legitimacy problem with the league itself. Anyway, 30 minutes on that on that question. Let's go to the next one. LeBron and the Lakers. Are they in trouble? Yes, they are in trouble, but do not write them off. I know. Let's see how many times I can contradict myself in one sentence. Here's what I think. I think the Lakers still make the playoffs. However, they would just get in by the skin of their teeth. But here's the thing. If you're the management of the Lakers, at what point do you say, hold on a second? LeBron looks at a totally different speed in the regular season as opposed to what we just saw on All-Star Weekend. Plays with a hop in his step, everything like that. So did the Lakers management... Because let's try to keep this in perspective. December 25th, game against Golden State. That's when he, quote-unquote, heard something pop in his groin. He left the game, did not return. MRI came back, he tweets, says it's good, but still takes 6 weeks off. Okay? Something's not adding up with all this, right? An MRI will show a sprain as well as a tear. It will show both. And it wouldn't have been all clear at that point. You would have been able to know exactly what to expect. The Lakers aired precaution. LeBron took the time off. Somehow added 20 pounds. I'll let you draw your own conclusions to that one. Steroids. But the fact is, he's back. But why did he come back? During that time, the Lakers fell from 4th to 9th or 8th or whatever it was. Could have been 10th. I know they're 10th now. They dropped in the standings, and the whole Anthony, and then all of a sudden the Lakers panicked and they realized that they must get Anthony Davis now. Then they tried to move hell and high water to make that happen. They virtually hijacked the entire NBA season with that. More people have heard about the Anthony Davis trade situation than have heard about Russell Westbrook's triple-double record streak, which is a damn shame. It's an incredibly pathetic reflection of how the NBA cares more and promotes more its off-the-court stuff than the on-the-court stuff. So, but keeping on topic, that's what happened with the Lakers. It kind of feels like the Lakers management might have said to LeBron, hey, it's about time you got back out there and started playing. Now, LeBron does have a history of pouting and sulking, especially when he feels like he doesn't have a chance. And that is consistent with the way we have seen him play, especially against Atlanta, against Indiana. He did play with a little bit of a bouncy step in against Boston, but the damage has been done. And the rest of the Lakers they feel like, what's the connection here? Why do I even bother to, apart from the fact that I'm a professional, why should I emotionally invest in this anymore when I know I'm here short term? They're going to get rid of me. And they are young players like Ingram, Kuzma. I don't know how Lonzo Ball's going to handle this. But we have seen them maybe mentally, maybe it's subconsciously, check out. And I talked about this after Rondo made that shot. All the teammates, the younger teammates, were hugging him from one side. LeBron was trying to rip Rondo away so he could get the spotlight and hug him. There is no connection there. That camaraderie that we saw early on, because when LeBron came in, he's like, this is going to be a long-term project. We're here long-term with you. We're going to bring in some free agents. Also, if you're a free agent, and we'll stick with the Lakers for a second, and then we'll get to the free agents. But so the Lakers, they still have the talent to make it, and especially with the moves that the Clippers made. But Doc Rivers is doing such a good job, and the addition of Harrison Barnes to Sacramento, it's not going to be easy for the Lakers to make it to the playoffs. They got some room to cover. I think they will do it just because of the inexperience of Sacramento and the pieces that the Clippers traded away. But if the Lakers do not make the playoffs, right, which I'll put just off the top of my head, I'll say it's a 35% chance to 40% chance that they do not make the playoffs. Just say the Clippers make the playoffs instead. If you're a free agent, your name is Kevin Durant or Kawhi Leonard, you're a marquee free agent, why would you go to the Lakers at that point? You're walking into a drama-infested situation. It's all around LeBron, knowing that even if you were able to, you might say, well, it's a challenge. Okay, so if it's a challenge and you're able to turn it around, you're not going to be the face of that franchise. Who do you think's going to get all the credit? Is it going to be you, or is it going to be Kawhi Leonard? Oh, sorry, if you're Kawhi Leonard, is it going to be you, or is it going to be LeBron James? It's always going to be LeBron. It's absolutely always going to be LeBron. And if it fails, it's going to be on you. Just ask Chris Bosh, just ask Kevin Love. Ask Dwayne Wade. Ask all these guys. Every time he's lost, with the exception of 2011, it's always been his teammates' fault, according to the media. So why would you go there? Or would you rather go to a stable situation, same market, maybe it's definitely not the same fan base, but the same market with the Clippers? Considering the Clippers, the job that they're doing, the Clippers are overachieving. Every team LeBron has been on, even the championship teams, with the exception of maybe 2013, because they won 67 games, but look at how much they struggled in the playoffs that year, and you could argue that they definitely underachieved in the playoffs. They didn't show the same dominance in the playoffs that they did in the regular season. Even the championship teams, LeBron's teams, especially in Miami, should have won more. Absolutely, they should have won more. So the point that I'm making is, would you rather go to a team that is churning out, because last year they overachieved too, churning out overachievers, good coaching, management that actually knows its role, there is a structure in place with Jerry West, or would you go to the Lakers? Now, obviously, the Clippers can't pick up everybody, but not everybody wants to go to LA. And if you wanted to go to LA before LeBron went there, and then all of a sudden the Clippers might have been the better option all along. I think long-term, the Lakers are in massive problems, even if they make the playoffs. And there is no guarantee that one, they can actually trade, they've got the assets to trade for an Anthony Davis, or two, that they're able to actually get a free agent. I still think, though, I believe that Kyrie Irving is going. I told you that from the moment I heard about that staged phone call when Kevin Love was in the room. I thought he was going to go join LeBron and the Lakers. I still believe that. But we will see if that's enough. It's very interesting. It truly is. At how badly this has turned out. And as I said in previous podcasts, in almost record time. Now let's skip ahead to some other questions, a little bit better ones. When I say that, I sigh, because the next one up is the Colin Kaepernick settling. And I covered this. I did an entire episode under garbage time. So look that up on YouTube. That's an extra channel that I've created where I just do content that's not related strictly to the NBA. Now, for you guys that don't know, I'm going to answer it now because I can if I want to. The Colin Kaepernick collusion case came to an end, almost silently too. Nobody saw this coming. There wasn't a build up to it or anything like that. And for all the attention this entire situation has gotten, it was kind of surprising that it happened that way. But what happened was there was a settlement between the NFL and Colin Kaepernick and Eric Reid. Both of those guys were San Francisco 49ers. Kaepernick started to sit on the bench and then he decided to kneel. Eric Reid was the first guy to join him in kneeling, and then everybody else sort of who wanted to do that did that. They were the first two players. Now, for what it's worth, Eric Reid is still playing in the NFL, so the collusion case, and he signed a big bonus, by the way, so the collusion didn't make a whole lot of sense. It really didn't, if you're looking at the facts associated with this. Now, instantly people were jumping up and saying that this is a sign of guilt from the NFL, that they must have done something wrong, because why else would they settle? And wow, just wow at that, because when you think about it, if we are applying that standard, then does that mean when Kobe Bryant, of course, if you guys don't remember, Kobe Bryant in 2003 was in Colorado. I think he was getting surgery done on his knee, or he was there for a checkup, whatever it was. He was in Colorado. He slept with a woman. She accused him of rape, and then led to a huge situation, a media circus around every single game. Eventually, Kobe Bryant settled with her to drop the charges. So if we are going to say that the NFL, if the NFL settling with Colin Kaepernick is an admission of guilt and wrongdoing, then are we also saying that Kobe Bryant settling with that woman is an admission that he raped her? I know that sounds heavy, but if the standards are the same, then that's if that's it, once again, it sounds heavy. But if we are going to sit there and claim that if the NFL settling out of court with Colin Kaepernick is admitting that they are guilty, then you've got to do the same with Kobe. However, I'll do neither, because in a lot of times these situations, it's a risk-reward situation. And what I mean by that is the NFL probably weighed it up, and we don't know who approached who. I'm going to assume that there was never any smoking gun, because if you have some kind of evidence, whether it's an email or text messaging or whatever, then why would you settle if you're Colin Kaepernick? You wouldn't settle. So I'm assuming they probably realized that after Eric Reid got the big extension, that we can't prove this. So they probably reached out to the NFL, but I don't know that. The only way we'll know is if we ever find out the amount. And if we don't find out the amount, we're just going to have to be satisfied with just not knowing. Or we could make up stuff and pretend that we know to make ourselves feel better. I don't know about you guys, but I would prefer to be honest about the situation and say, we don't know. Or I don't know. But the fact remains, I'm very... I'm not surprised in the slightest, but I do find it curious as to the way people work and how their minds work and how blatantly inconsistent they can be without without an ounce of self-awareness. So on one hand, Kobe Bryant did it just to shut her up so he can move on, but the NFL settled just because, they were clearly guilty from the outset because that's what we want to believe. That's not the way it works. If you want the full episode on that, go to the YouTube page. It is on there. Now we can get to the good questions. Someone asked me, did I look up the 2 games that a Bulls teammate scored 30 points in the finals? Obviously, you're referring to Michael Jordan. In the last podcast I did with Mike Fry, Mike Fry pointed out that he only had 2 games where a teammate would score 30 points. One was Game 5 of the 91 NBA Finals. Thank you, Zoe, by the way, for sending that in. I would never have found that. And the other one was Game 5 of the 98 Finals between the Utah Jazz and the Bulls. Now, that was an interesting one. And when you think about it, how differently would we remember Jordan had they had won that game? Because here's what happened. The Bulls were up 3-1. Jordan, if you can believe this, Jordan and Pippen were kind of dominating at the same time. They were both putting up MVP numbers. There was actually a push for Pippen to actually get the MVP. People felt that Pippen was the MVP of the finals throughout the first 4 games. Remember, the Bulls split the first 2 games in Utah. They lost overtime in Game 1. They came back to win Game 2. Game 3 was the 40 or 50 point route where the Utah Jazz scored the least amount, or set the record for the least amount of points in an NBA game, not just NBA Finals. I think it was around 54, 56, something incredibly embarrassing like that. And then Game 4, the Jazz rebounded to a point, but it was Dennis Rodman who hit some clutch foul shots at the end of the game. So Jordan had not dominated, is the point that I'm making. Pippen was playing very well. Pippen was playing closer to Jordan, and he was lifting his game up towards Jordan's level as opposed to Jordan coming down. However, in Game 5, Scottie Pippen went 2 of 16. I'm not sure if he even got into double digits. We started to see issues with his back from taking too many charges from Karl Malone. That will do that to you, absolutely. The whiplash associated with it. You're thinking, well, how does that blow your back out? Think about this. You're standing upright to take a charge, and you have a guy like Karl Malone, 270 pounds, all muscle, at full speed. What do you think happens to your back in those situations when you're taking a knee in the chest like that? Your back is going to have whiplash. And those effects will take a toll, especially on your lower back. So that happened. Jordan wasn't shooting that well either. But Toni Kukoc was on fire. He was 11 of 13 from the field. He really kept the Bulls in it. And I remember I think the Jazz were up by 4 with only seconds to go. And Toni Kukoc put up a 3. He was fouled. They didn't call the foul, and he made the 3-pointer. Now imagine, you want to talk about hypotheticals here. Imagine if they had called that foul, Kukoc goes up there, makes a foul shot, it goes to overtime, and Kukoc leads them to the championship. Is Kukoc then considered a Hall of Fame player? I mean, think about it. Is Jordan as revered without that Game 6? Of course, he is still considered the greatest of all time, but is he as revered? And clearly not, because that was as emphatic of a send-off as you could ever ask for. So, of course, if they don't get to that game, he's not going to get that send-off. Now, the Bulls, ironically, the Bulls are probably considered a much higher esteem at that point too. Because then they would have, after looking very vulnerable up against the Utah Jazz, the Indiana Pacers, they looked unstoppable against Utah throughout the first 4 games, as I mentioned. And had they finished the job off in Game 5, then you're talking about a situation where the Bulls looked a lot more unstoppable than they were, but because they looked so vulnerable in Game 6, Pippen being injured, Kukoc was still playing well in Game 6, but not as well as what he played in Game 5. Dennis Rodman being a sideshow. Jordan had to endure all that to drag them over the line in Utah to deliver that title. So it's a funny, situation where you've got all these variables. On one side, the Bulls would be elevated if Toni Kukoc was sent to the foul line, as he should have been. but then you take away Jordan's. But that's me rambling on about Toni Kukoc. So those are the 2 times. Those are the 2 times that we got it. And the final question that we got is, did I really say that Hakeem didn't make his teammates better? I got this on YouTube. I also got a couple of people asking me that. No, that's not what I was saying. So full context, if people haven't heard the Mike Fry show, what we're talking about is our top starting 5s of all time. And I said that my starting 5 would include Wilt Chamberlain alongside Larry Bird, Dr. J, Michael Jordan, and Magic Johnson. And the reason I would go with Wilt is because I'm guaranteed that you do not need to run the offense through him. He can make his teammates better without the ball having to necessarily touch his hands. With Hakeem, however, it's a risk that you're running that maybe he can't do that. Maybe you do need to throw the ball to him a little bit. And I am much more secure in thinking that Wilt would make Jordan and Magic and Bird and Dr. J better than what Hakeem would make them better. Now, that's not saying Hakeem wouldn't make them better. I'm saying that I think Wilt would have made them better. Same with Bill Russell. I think Bill Russell would have made them better. So that's the point I was making. I'm sorry if that caused any confusion, but I haven't listened to the show back. Maybe I didn't clarify it enough or whatever. Anyway, guys, so that's the mailbag. We are not up to date with the mailbag, but those are some good questions I got in the last week, so I wanted to handle those. Now, please continue to send through messages, emails, however you want to do it. Comments, probably not the best way to do it because so many of them, it's hard to sort of, I try to respond to everybody, but there's times when I'll be like bored and I'll scroll through it and I notice that I've, missed a really good comment. And that annoys me, that if I've missed like a decent comment. So please send, if you got something like that you want on the show, just email it or message me. Matt@istilllovethisgame.com is the best way to do it. If not, you can message me directly on Instagram or on Facebook. And if you are listening to it on iTunes and you enjoyed the show, do me a favor and leave a 5-star review. That would be very much appreciated. Okay, guys, thanks for listening, and I'll catch you in the next episode.